to another episode of Make Your Shot Count. I'm Valerie, and I'm here with lead firearms instructor Geary Chlebus. I received a letter from Debbie earlier this morning, and she would like to know how to choose the proper firearm.
Well, first off, let's go ahead, and I have a firearm here, so let's walk the steps through. Before you do anything with the firearm, I will always tell you, you always remember gun safety. Remember, safety starts here. That's the gun, but this is the safety. So what we want to do is make sure, is anything here, would you place your finger in it, please? Is that empty?
Yes.
I want you to look down here into the chamber here. Is it empty?
Yes.
Okay. For your protection and my protection, I will pull the trigger. Notice that it is empty. Now let's begin. With your hand, may I have your hand, please?
Yes.
What we want to do, what we want Debbie to understand is this. When you select a firearm, we got to make sure that when the gun is placed, or handgun is placed in the hand, it is not too heavy that she cannot hold up. That's number one. Number two, we want to make sure that the thumb is long enough that if she had to squeeze or push the magazine release, she's able to. Now, from our other point is, let's just go like this for a second. Lay your fingers here. We want to check the length of your first finger. Now, when you're looking at your first finger, one thing we want to be able to do is make sure that it can naturally just fall onto the trigger, okay? Place it on the trigger. What we don't want you to do is be able to turn your hand to pull the trigger. Can you pull the trigger, please? Go ahead. Do it again, please. Was it hard? Good. So one of the things we look for is how hard it is to pull the trigger. If it's too hard, especially if you have arthritis or problems, you're going to have a problem squeezing it. Another thing too is when you squeeze the trigger, you don't want to have a lot of play in it. You don't want to squeeze, 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 and then it fires. Very important. You must remember that when you checking the length of a trigger pull. Finger off the trigger. When you're not using it, finger off the trigger. Okay, next thing what we want to talk about is, let's look about the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder, and even the hand. We want to talk about arthritis. Does arthritis have an effect? The answer is 100% yes. Those with arthritis, when you have a gun that is too big and it has a lot of recoil to it, it hurts the hand. Some people with arthritis can't even pull the trigger. So we have to look at what kind of gun would be best suited for them. I don't tell anybody this is the gun. We go through a series of steps to determine if it is or isn't. So that's one of the things we want to look at, okay? Now, beside that, you notice you have sights on this weapon, correct?
Correct.
We want to make sure that you can see these sights. One of the issues is people like myself, bifocal, some have trifocal. What can happen? Can you see the sights when you bring the handgun up? If you can't see the sights, we may have to change the color of the sights, the size of the sights, so you are able to see it. Now, there are people that put lasers on their guns. That's another episode we'll look at. Now, one other issue that with women is if they ever have a mastectomy, this area here, of course, is going to be weak, which when you're holding the gun out and when it fires, they feel it not only in the shoulders, but all through their arm. Very important to understand. Would you mind grabbing hold of the weapon, please, properly? One of the other things I want to make sure is when you're holding the weapon, there are certain guns that when you have this type of grip, we call the thumbs forward grip, sometimes when you squeeze with this part, certain guns you'll discharge, or not discharge, but you'll drop the magazine. So when you squeeze, the magazine drops. So if you use this grip, you got to make sure with the gun you purchase, it does not happen. And the other part is when you're holding it out here, we want to make sure one key thing, can you shoot 5 rounds? The recoil, if the gun goes up and it's too hard for you to control, the gun's too big for you. Let's drop it down. We say 5 rounds because if you shoot and you miss, and you shoot and you hit and he's still coming at you, you must be able to follow up with necessary shots. We shoot to stop the threat. Do we understand this? Any other question?
Nope, I think that wraps it up for us, Gary. Thank you so much for your time.
Let me tell you a quick story about this specific gun here.
Okay.
This gun fits your hand very well, and I think this I would highly recommend. It's a 6-hour 239 model. But this here gun is an expensive gun. And a story a couple of years ago, my wife asked me to buy her something that's expensive. It shines and it can fit on her finger. Well, the average firearm instructor would buy a what? A 6 Sauer 239, stainless steel, and stainless steel on the bottom. It is the perfect gun for a Christmas gift. That's what I thought. Following Christmas Day, we were at the jewelry store at the mall, and I had to buy her diamonds. To me, I thought she wanted a gun, expensive, put on your finger, and it shines.
Well, with that being said, I guess for some of us, guns are a girl's best friend. And thank you for watching. If you ever find yourself in a situation, make your shot count.